we are actually going to have some representatives from the definitions coming and sharing their actual lived experience as those definitions. So it'll be similar to the roundtable we did if you watched our profile line parties, except now we're doing it with definition. So we're very excited to bring you today's episode. And so I'm going to roll out the red carpet for our guests one
Bye,
by
Moni.
one. Here we go. So, first up, we have our single definition guest tonight. She is a 5-time best-selling author, a speaker, and I am honored to call her friend. Welcome to the stage, Tracey, our single definition friend.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Mona.
We are so excited to have you and share all the things. So, thank you.
I just realized I merged Moana and Moni together, so I didn't mean to call you.
No,
Mona.
that happens all the time. That's that's why we try not to be on screen at the same
That
time.
was so. I'm like, I can't believe that. It shocked me when it came out of my mouth. So
No.
just made
You're
a
not
new
the first person to have done it. It's all good. I'm like, oh no, it's just like a tongue twister. But
one.
awesome. Thank you, Tracey. So now we are going to bring up someone that you might know. He has been on the show since the conception. He's been doing human design for almost 30 years. He's an encyclopedia of knowledge, always dropping the wisdom bombs. Let's bring out Danny, our split definition rep.
Stop
Hello.
right there, Moana. Come on. I almost did it, by the way, Tracey. I almost did Moni. It happens. I was all flushed. Stop you. But thank you very much, Moana. I can't wait to be here. I've lived with this thing, and I get to share some of it out in the world. It's good.
Right. So now we are going to be introducing to someone you're going to be seeing for many more shows to come. He is going to be making his debut on the show. He is the absolute magician behind our stunning graphics. I cannot believe what wizardry comes out of him. And he is a fellow 4-1. And I'm so excited to introduce our triple split representative, Chris. Come on down.
Hello, thanks for having me. And what an introduction. That's so sweet. Thank you so much.
Well, all true words, all true words. What can I say? So now, this unicorn, let me tell you, required a lot of hunting, a lot of asking of people. And when I found one that was willing to come on the show, I wanted to punch myself in the face. Not pinch myself, punch myself in the face, because I was that like, wake me up, this is a dream. That's how I'm excited to bring out Siobhan, our wonderful fourth of quad split definition representative. She is the host of Siobhan Speaks, and you can find her on Siobhan's Instagram and TikTok. And she is going to illuminate what it's like for, I think it's like 0.1% of the population. Like, it is wild how rare they are. So the fact that
0.6.
0.6, yes, I mean, it's less than 1%. The fact that I managed to not only find one, but one that was willing to come and share her experiences is just like, ah. So without further ado, Siobhan, welcome.
Hello.
We're so excited to have you on.
I'm excited. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet. Ooh,
So sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I haven't been in the human design space since a while. Like, I took what I learned and over the past several years have been slowly integrating it and deconditioning, and it has been such a game changer. So I'm super excited to be here and share whatever wisdom or knowledge I can share with people from that.
Thank you so much for joining. And last but not least, we have our no definition representative. She is an absolute gem of a human being. She has not only found me reflectors from when I did that crazy thing called the profile line party, but she is just exudes warmth and care, and I've never even met her in person. Like, how does she manage to do that? She does. So, without further ado, let's bring up our no definition candidate, our lovely reflector, Annie.
Oh, that was lovely. Thank you.
Annie,
Hello.
yay.
True words, all true. And she's also a wonderful podcast host for Reflector Reflection. So go check that out.
Please check it
So,
out. It's good.
yeah. So we
Yep.
have all the Pokemon gathered. We caught them all. And what we're going to do, for the sake of keeping things easy for everybody to follow along, we are going to follow the exact order that our slides went when people are going to be answering the question. Because the whole point of the show today is to have people hear the lived experience of each of these definitions, because it is going to look very, very different for everyone here. So they always say manifestors go first. So here we go. Tracey, this one is going to be for you first. So how does your definition shape the way that you process decisions and navigate relationship?
I would say that before knowing human design, I just kind of knew what to do. It was just fear. It was pretty clear, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. But knowing more about human design, I would say my definition, it's like the most, I guess the most clear thing that I've always said. And now I understand why I've said this. Like now it's like, oh, it is that I don't need you, but I want you. So even like when my husband proposed, I was like, I just want you to know I'm never going to need you, but I want you. And that's just kind of always my approach. So it's very clear to me.
What a beautiful way to put that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there were times in life that I would see friends that really needed things. And I would be like, oh, is there something wrong with me? Because I don't have, so there were some things that came up just through growing up where you do a lot of comparing. But over time, I realized that was something that, was good. And it has worked for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Danny, I think Tracey's passing you the mic.
Oh, I can say, okay, I'll just tell you what I'm complete.
I apologize. So that question's for all of us. We go around on that one. Yeah. I thought, Moana, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to ask several questions of one and then, okay, cool. So it's affected me. What was the question again? Someone read it out. How does definition
I will
shape...
read it out for you. Don't worry. Okay. So it's, how does definition shape the way that you process decisions and navigate relationships?
Painfully. until I knew what it was. With a simple split like I have, one gate will bridge it. I just noticed before I knew that it was there, and I could see what it was doing to me. I became at times desperate to get the word out. So everything else comes into play, right? 2-4, manifesting generator. So I quickly kept wanting to get the word out in a friendly way. So I would always want to explain to friends things and get stuck in a loop of, I'm only explaining half of it, or I'm not explaining myself at all. And to go between that and what I am now, where the second I recognize, oh, I didn't explain that, I'd just be like, well, I didn't actually explain that. So, but, no big deal. I guess it'll explain itself at some point, and I get to be okay with that. And then, so that's, and in relationships, it has absolutely caused me to need the other and wonder why they don't need me. And when that trip finally left me, that was, by the way, if nothing else, get your human design read deeply so you can never have that trip again in your life, because you don't need it. When I realized what that was, and I actually was deconditioned it out of my life, I suddenly realized I don't care. I don't care, and you really get to this spot when you start to see, because a single split is hard. It's a desperation for the other. you know, from my point of view and from what I've seen in it in the world. So when it's gone, it's gone. It's good that way. On to you, Chris.
All right. So Triple Split has been an interesting journey to explore. And it's interesting because I kind of feel a little bit of the single definition where um, it's like there's an independence, but then there's like a I can't figure this out. I don't know why I can't figure it out. And then I go to a different place and then somehow it like kind of unravels itself. And it's like, oh, okay, that kind of like discovery of it's not necessarily like a person that I need to go to in order to connect my splits and kind of like bring about this processing. It's kind of like a my processing is moving through different public spaces or just spaces in general. Like I'll go on a walk in my neighborhood and then something will clear itself up, or I'll go lay under a tree and it'll clear itself up in like a different space. And it's in the decision making process, it's kind of like it's made it difficult. And as I'm learning how to, navigate that, it's becoming easier. And it's like interesting. I have to like give myself the permission for the initial decision that I had in one area to shift as I kind of like process it in different areas. And then when it comes to relationship, um, I haven't really ever been tied to one person or felt as though like one person is like my person. I can feel that attachment for people, but I feel like kind of like what you were talking about, Danny, in the introduction, where there's a period of time that if I'm in that space for too long, it gets really tense. And it's not the person. I don't like hate that person. There's not necessarily anything wrong. It's just that my body needs a little bit of a flush just so that I can kind of come back into that space again. And I recognize that in like past relationships where it was amicable when I had multiple places that I could go and kind of be outside of that aura and be in different auras. And it was tense when they wouldn't kind of let me do that, or if they felt that it meant something about the relationship. And I didn't know how to communicate that. So it was kind of like, maybe it is about you, or maybe it is about like the relationship. And um, I've also kind of like ended a lot of relationships, I think, prematurely because of that, because of not understanding that there's just this energetic need that wasn't being met.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In those endings of relationships, was it slip away ending mostly, or was it like a finality where you faced it head on and said the things, or a
Sometimes I
combination?
think it was a combination. I think in the early stages, it was kind of a slip away, kind of like I really hope that this person just doesn't have this conversation with me. I'm just gonna kind of
Right.
disappear into my other spaces. But as I matured, it became more of like a head-on thing of like, okay, something about this isn't working. And I would find some reason. And not that I'm like shaming myself for ending them. When they did, they had to, yeah.
Gotcha. Our
But
definitions
yeah.
are driving our consciousness, Chris, in that own unique little way. So think of how that made you smarter over time. It made you start to see it. Amazing.
Mhm. Thanks for that question. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that one.
Who's next? Oh, quad split time.
So where did the question go? It was the process decisions and navigate relationships. Okay. I had to pull up my chart because I'm not as well versed as everyone and kind of remember what all is defined.
Yeah.
So when I reflect on that, the first thing that comes to mind is when I was younger, like in my teenage years, I was in an abusive relationship in my formative years from about 14 to let's say 21. And when I'm looking at all of these centers that are defined and I'm operating now in that confidently and knowingly, and I look at the person that I was back then, and it's so clear that obviously I was cut off from my intuition, but I was cut off from like all of those centers. I was like in a fog of a person. Like I was a smart girl making dumb decisions. I was a very heart open person who had just let her heart grow apathetic. Like I can just look through each centers and see how I was not, for lack of a better term, awake, if you will. Whereas when you flash forward to, let's say, like my mid-20s, every relationship, the past several relationships that I've been in as an adult, that were healthy relationships, I've always been the one to end them, because my conviction to my life's work will always supersede any relationship. Like and it always comes to that. I can look back and see where I can almost feel, at the time I was a devout Christian and a minister. I'm not a minister anymore. And I can remember feeling like God saying, you can have this relationship. However, I had something bigger for you. And in every single past relationship, that's what it's come down to, is this person makes me happy. I love this person. But I also know, more so now, know what I have to bring to the world and what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I feel like that person's going to be a hindrance, or if I feel like this person is not aligned with that path, I've been the one to make that definitive decision. And it brings new meaning to the phrase full body yes. Because like for me, it's like all of these systems have to be lit up. The only one that's not defined is the sacral. So for me, it has to feel like a full body yes when it comes to relationships. And as far as decision making goes, understanding that I need that time, that I'm not an on the spot kind of person, has brought so much relief. More so in my business, that's what comes to mind, but I'm going to try to stay on try to stay focused to the question. But it has allowed me to give myself grace and to also see it in others. I left corporate America because I didn't like the structure. And so I'm a business owner and I can run the business the way I want to and not push hard sales on people, because I know how it felt to have that done to me. And so when I'm making decisions as someone that knows I need that extra time, it helps me with the empathy towards others and giving grace to others for the same.
It's quite a journey, Siobhan. Coming to know that must have been such a relief for you when you first saw it. So I'm guessing, have that relief having come, I'm guessing it didn't take you long. Like they didn't have to talk you into doing much with HD. It hit pretty quick. Is that right?
I think I was listening to a podcast like Manifestation Babe or somebody, and she said she was a manifesting whatever. And I was like, oh, manifester. I want to be a manifester. And I went and and I looked it up and I was all sad. I was like, projector. I was like, that sounds lame. And so I didn't really look too much into it. And I don't remember how me and Kayla came to cross. I really don't know how our paths crossed, but I started listening to her podcast and then we became really close. And for my birthday, I bought myself a reading with her. And that's what I'm looking at right now as a reference. Like I still to this day go back to that when I'm like trying to get a better idea of who I am and everything. Like you said earlier, I don't remember who said it, but she said it's not Moni. I think she said, you're not telling us anything new. It's just confirming what we already knew, but didn't know was a thing, because we thought you only can be this way. So.
It was punched in place between 0 and 7 years old, your truth. And everything after that became a conditioning landslide, downward into the abyss until we wake up again, and stuff. I would love to read your chart. That's you guys are unicorns. And you're almost all emotional, like we were saying, Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was going to say, also for reference, is Siobhan, correct?
Siobhan, I would have said that wrong over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm all done. So.
Oh, nice. On to you, Miss Annie.
Hello. Well,
Hola.
I guess as a reflector with no definition, I don't have any consistency there, I do, but I don't. And so I process decisions and navigate relationships by sampling the energy around me. And so these decisions that I have are really deeply influenced by the cycles, predominantly my lunar cycle. And so I need to wait for clarity over time. But that definition comes in and out. It's always weaving. It's like a dance, And relationships in that saying that are very much like a dance. I'm observing, I'm reflecting, I'm adapting, I'm constantly moving and flowing in that space. So I've learnt throughout this journey to not cling to any expectations of that, because in the past I would be, and I'd be clinging to somebody else's definition. I'd be clinging to that fixedness, and that fixedness just doesn't hold true for me. So it's been a long journey to not cling to the fixedness and just dance the weave of a little bit of definition here and a little bit of openness there, and I can feel into those energies as it flows through. But it's very different. I was listening to Chris then, and I was nodding and I'm agreeing, and I knew this was going to happen in this panel of just going, I am all of it, but nothing of it, but all of it and nothing of it at the same time. And just hearing that about going out and needing to connect, to bridge those gaps, needing that definition when I don't have it, because it helps me come to decisions or be able to sort of process things that I don't know how to weave. So that's just been my experience on that, I suppose, of how definition or lack of definition has kind of allowed me to process those decisions. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Annie? Would you say that so in this lens of definition, being the no definition person, listening to the rest of us, that you can start to see that, oh, my process has nothing to do with the way you guys are speaking about definition. Us no definition folks, reflectors specifically, obviously only, each one is this sampling malaise that I have to really taste through, just like I would sample my coffee with a sip before I decide it's okay to walk out the door. I mean, this really, do I like this definition? Is this, and it's over time, like an emotional process as well. Does it feel like an emotional process at times?
Yeah, I have learnt that there are times though that I can have a really, personal single definition process.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I can have that split definition. It really depends on what's happening for me, where my gates are showing up in my chart. But I do honor more of I need the other to help me bridge a certain things in my chart or certain decisions that I need to make. So I'm more identifying just from hearing this panel with, the triple and the quad split, opposed to it kind of being that big, on the single or the split, because there's so many more nuances that need to kind of like join the dots.
Well, just in human design terms, you can almost look at this progression of the splits, much like the progressions of the lines into the upper trigram and the transpersonal versus the personal destiny, right angle folks. And it sort of works like that a little bit. That might have been a little advanced or whatever, but you know what I'm talking about, Annie. And it's the type of thing that, as a reflector, I'm guessing that sampling is the decision making almost entirely. I mean, like that's the main engine feeding all of your decision making, is these sample on, sample off, sample on, sample off. Is that a fair statement, or speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. And it's not about, again, the sampling is sample on. I love like sample on, sample off. It's very take a bite or take a sip of the coffee, like you said before, and then leave it. Definition we don't have. And I think sometimes we, as reflectors, and speaking from my own lens, we can have that experience where we're feeling that definition and we feel an identity towards that. So we're like, oh, that's me now. That's what this is. But then it leaves and it's like, oh, there it goes. So it's more about embracing that, again, sipping the coffee, taking the experiment to just be sampling and just allowing it to move through you. Like I want to use the words like a dance, like it's just literally like allowing it to move through. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. So on to the next question we go. So I want you to think, like, when is your definition supported you or challenged your ability to trust your inner authority? So think your inner authority, and how has it either helped or hindered your inner authority?
So I would say that, it is like, there are many ways that this would like split, which is funny since I'm single definition. But sometimes because I would know stuff, people didn't believe me or trust me. So they would like definitely try to control me. So I think I like was then learning not to trust that. So if I can think back to like memories of childhood where I just had a knowing of what decision I wanted to make, and that wasn't right to the adults in my life, that I just realized that like, okay, every time I do something I think is right, I'm in trouble. And, I remember one time my mom I haven't thought of this memory in so long. So one time my mom forgot something, and we lived on this huge hill, and she was like new to driving stick shift. I was like 3 or maybe 4. My sister was like, my sister's like not even a whole year younger than me. So we're super close in age. And my mom ran in the house really quick to get something. And I just pressed a button. And we rolled across the street between 2 houses, all the way to the woods. There was a search party out looking for us for the longest time. We were like, it was a crazy experience. And I got in so much trouble, but I was trying to turn the car off. I just hit the wrong button. So it was, just like little things where you're like, oh, okay, like it's not safe. I need to turn this car off. Well, I didn't know how. So I pushed the wrong button and we went rolling. And it was like a crazy thing. So that, just kind of being spontaneous when I was a kid really led me to like pissing off people and like major crazy destruction. So I learned to I have a lot of open centers. So I think this is where the authority kind of crosses over. I pick up the energy of the room a lot. So Annie, a lot of what you were saying, like I feel that depending on who is there. Like if someone has good vibes, great. But when they don't, I'm like, I need to get out of here. Just bad vibes. I'm out. So it's really interesting how when you look at it through the lens of using your authority or your definition, like sometimes they are opposing, because I, am still, on the journey of releasing so much conditioning from like, being a bad girl, like, doing what I thought my heart was telling me to do. And even like the thing of just being told, I don't know if it's just like a girl in the US, we were raised to, if you do something that you want to do, it's selfish. I mean, that was like beaten into me. So it's been a really hard journey as an adult to say, oh, wait, no, what do I really want? I'm allowed to want what I want. Oh, it's like continuously coaching yourself through it. Like I'm allowed to want what I want. And this is actually good for the world. It's not selfish. The more I try to people please and anticipate what you want me to say and do, which is what I spent the majority of my life doing, it gets, it leads to burnout. It leads to stress, issue, making wrong decisions because they're not for me. So
we need you guys at peace doing what you feel like you need to do. We need that. We need you there. Yep.
And that's been like, even long before discovering human design, like that's always been the thing. Like, is it ever enough for you? Is it, I just want peace for everyone. And it's like, I just want to make sure that everybody has what they need. It's just a thing. And it's been an interesting journey though. But the way that question was worded, to flip it around, are you following your, authority, or are you, because I'm single definition, I think sometimes I know what I want, but I have these, these old things that will come up where I have to coach myself through it. Like, oh no, trust that. There's a reason. It's like always bypassing the mind, because the mind is like useless when it comes to making decisions. And one of the things that I don't remember which one of you said it, but it's interesting, like the relationship piece, like when you look at it through that lens, my kids were just asking me, I think it was yesterday, about, like, they're getting to that age, they're curious about relationships. And I live in a house with all splits. Okay. So 3 men in the house, the boys and my husband, they're all split definition. And it's funny because it was just yesterday, they were asking me about like old relationships. Like, did you ever break up with anyone? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And so when
All of them.
yeah, and that's
Mostly.
the truth. They're like, I'm the one that ended every relationship. So that was like a really interesting epiphany. I didn't realize. So I was having the conversation with my my children yesterday, and then us talking about it now. I'm like, wow, that's really, I never correlated it to my definition. Like, okay, I'm done. Bye, I'm out. But I had the difficult conversations because I've always been open to grow. So I've had a lot of people that didn't want to have the difficult conversations. They, you know, I couldn't force them to have them with me. But I have always been willing to have them.
No, absolutely. Am I up? You're good?
You're good.
Awesome. Thank you, Trace. I can see all that too. Again, renew my thing. We need you. Do it. Make some splashes so we got some puddles to play in, would you? That's me being cute. So for me, it's been, well, before I knew, it was the bane of my existence most of the time. And after I knew, it's just the single split is what throws humanity deeply, not the only thing, but it's one of the big driving factors that throws humanity into partnership with others. Because a lot of humanity, a lot of us, half the time, don't really want to necessarily have actual partnership. It's like, you know, I'm good with my own little trip, but because about 45% of the planet is a simple single gate split, or maybe a channel split, but a single gate split, we'll call it. You know, that vibe is on the planet. There's always pair bonding happening. So I longed for pair bonding. I longed for it. And I noticed that over time, as I come to know the knowledge, I started to realize this thing, this split, missing gate 23 in my body graph, having a defined head and ajna and 43 twice, and then missing gate 23, not having it there. Overall, it has pressured the most profound recognitions of what I'm not supposed to be and what I actually am. I'm supposed to find the right timing to explain stuff. And had I known that when I was younger, I would not have crashed into every last thing completely outside and obtuse to the timing that was being presented me. Not always, but often, and way too often. And so that I have no idea what I would have lost had I understood the right timing. Having this split has helped me see how important timing is. I mean, even in this show, if you were to count up all the times I shut my face and you can see I'm about to say something, my mouth is moving, and then suddenly I just stop. The timing, I've become so aware of the timing when it's time to traverse that gate that's missing and finally explain something. It's one of the great things about human design. It gave me so much stuff to explain. I'm like, oh, good, I'll never run out of things. But I still need to be asked. Go figure. You know, I'm right-minded, so I totally need to be asked. So it has helped me follow my strategy and authority like there is no tomorrow. And before I knew about it, there were times when I became so intelligent about what I am supposed to be, but only after a great deal of pressure trying to traverse that distance between my 43 across the 23 into the throat for manifestation. I knew, but I had to wait till the pressure built up enough. And in those moments, boy, did I really find out who I was. And I definitely found out who I wasn't. And it helped me come to some crazy realizations that many of my peers wouldn't come to. And I noticed that. And I was like, wow, I'm kind of smart about me half the time. But I had to wait and see it because I was so desperate to get the word out. And I was also desperate to have the right pair bond. And I didn't realize that wasn't actually my desperation. That was conditioned into me. You know, so hopefully I answered the question. Was that sort of the question? Please tell me I answered it. All right, good. Go ahead, Chris. You're up, buddy.
Oh, was Moana going to say something?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, I think it's supported. Here's how the example that's coming up to me right now is actually like one that has appeared most recently. So, like I said in the other question about like making the decisions and kind of giving myself the time to explore it as I move through these different areas. In in the last 2 weeks, I've had two different conversations about a shift in my decisions, and you know, the initially when I learned human design, there's my authority is sacral, and it's just sacral. So when I first learned it, it's like, okay, in the now you know. And there's always kind of been this like, okay, well, there's a triple split kind of lengthening of that process, and then the sacral in the now knowing. And this kind of tension between those kind of like the mental concept of those timing systems. And through these two kind of typical conversations that I've had, I was able to kind of like look back and be like, oh, okay, there was an initial sensation in the beginning that I'm attributing to my sacral as being like, okay, you do want this or some version of it, but maybe not in this form. And as time went on, the form of it shifted. So like the example is like um, a couple months ago, I agreed to go or to room with my friend in LA for our alumni meeting at our school. Every year, our track team has an alumni meet, and everybody comes. And for the past couple of years, me and this particular friend have roomed together, and it felt really good in that moment. And then as time went on and I processed it more, it started to feel like, okay, maybe not so much. And at first it was like, okay, maybe I don't want to go, or maybe I don't want to like, just be there. Or I was starting to question like, okay, what is my sacral saying? Like, how do I like, I was starting to question like, was it not right in the moment? Am I actually following my sacral? And I started to kind of understand that I was just getting more information and the clarity was coming in different ways. And what ended up happening was I opened the conversation up with the friend and was like, hey, my needs are shifting. I found a way to kind of communicate it in a way that's like, I don't know exactly what it is that I'm needing right now, but my needs are shifting. This doesn't feel right for me anymore. And through that conversation and through opening up that decision, I was able to kind of see, okay, what does my sacral actually want now with all this new information? And it was kind of we figured out a way for both of us to still like she still has her room. I ended up finding a space for myself because I felt like I needed, even though I want to be in like aura and like be in contact with everybody, I also want the space by myself to be able to be in my own aura, kind of like that whole triple split separating, kind of clearing myself out. Um, Especially when there's going to be so many people around me for kind of an extended period of time. I wanted to have a space for myself to kind of just be alone. Um, but I didn't know that when I first agreed. And of like, as the time came closer, it was like, okay, my body's not feeling flowy in this direction. That must be an indicator that I need to shift something around. What is it? And it kind of gave me an invitation to explore it. And that to me is like my version of following my authority is like, okay, I said yes before. It's not feeling like a yes now. What does feel like a yes? And then kind of exploring the different ways of figuring that out.
Looking back, can you tell, did it, when you look, sometimes we generators, right, we can look back in time and recognize, oh God, I knew it at the time. Did you have one of
Yeah.
them moments? Okay.
Yeah. So um, I think I had like felt maybe a couple weeks ago that like something wasn't right about the situation. Like every time I thought about it, there was like a kind of like a hit in my stomach. I was like, okay, something
Mm,
just isn't right. And
I
then it
figured out
wasn't until
something would,
go ahead.
yeah, finish your thought though.
Oh,
Wasn't until
it
you,
was like it was like through conversation with one of my reflector friends that was like, oh, I do feel this way. And it kind of like helped me like give myself the permission to be able to like acknowledge that sensation.
That's so awesome. I've noticed because I've done the same thing, Chris, right? It's like I've been able to successfully ask my own self a question.
Yeah.
You know, here and there. It's not very easy, dude. And we're always lying to ourselves a little bit, depending on what we think we want. So, as a potential, but the thing is, I've started to realize if I start the asking of myself process because I need to know, chances are I have a problem with the thing.
Mm.
You know, so that I've come to this point because I know exactly what you're talking.
Yeah.
You're looking, I was like, oh my God, what is this the thing? Is it not? And as
Yeah.
soon as I get there, it's like, well, never mind that answer. Let me go back and see the thing I'm thinking about in
Yeah.
the first place. That's clearly something's up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. You feel complete?
I do.
Cool. Nice. Your turn.
All right. Are you passing the mic, Chris?
Yep. Mike
Yep.
pass.
Okay. Alrighty. I'm trying to think of specific moments where my definition supported my ability to trust my authority. And I was just kind of taking notes. What I felt like now that I understand human design, well, before human design, it just felt like I was stubborn. Like I can never, stubborn is the best way to think of it. And when it came to decision making, it would feel overwhelming. It would feel, again, like there's 4 or 5 conversations happening. I have the word stubborn lawyer written here because I could run the play through all those centers and everybody that's defined will give me a rational reason for why this is a good decision. Like my head's gonna be like, oh, well, this was a divine thought. My throat chakra is always open. Like I'm very talkative. Like everybody will tell me why this is right or not. And then, but my authority is my solar plexus. And if they're not all on the same page, I've also written physical discomfort. So prior to human design, I'm a health coach, a personal trainer, nutritionist. Like that's how I make my money. But like in the other world, whatever, I'm more of a life coach. But because I've gotten so understanding with my body and it's a part of what I do for a living, I'm now so much more aware of like what's going on. And I'm able to start paying attention to whether that like listening for what's trying to talk to me, for lack of a better term. I'll take even little subtle hints. Like if I have a congested nose, and again, this goes back to the physical discomfort, having a congested nose to me signals something where I may want to pay more attention to my third eye or my Anya. When it comes to feminine discomfort in that area, that's when I'm going to start to pay more attention to those areas and see where I'm out of alignment. Before human design, I would phrase it as I always felt I was going against my whole self at all times, no matter what I did. And because I didn't know human design, two things can be true at once. Before human design, I saw it more as a cultural thing. Like I'm going against my ethnicity because I don't talk like Black girls are supposed to talk. And I like to do things that Black girls don't do here in America. Or I've never fit in people's boxes. So before understanding my design, I just always felt like I was going against myself no matter what way. If I acted more Black, then I'm not being true to where I was raised, because that's Black, by the way. Not really, I don't believe that, but you know what I'm saying. If I do that, then I'm not being true to me, because I'm just doing that to appease people. So the best, like now, the way that my authority helps support me and being aligned is like, does it feel good? And I know that's such a basic answer, but as someone that's so in tune with their body, like if my body's not feeling right, that's a telltale sign something's not right. That's what I got.
So you're saying go ahead, Chris.
I totally skipped out on like the whole idea of like there being 3 different voices. And for me, it's like my connections are root to spleen, and then head to ajna, and then G to sacral. And so a lot of the times when I'm not aligned, it's pressurized, or like it's like these 2 pressurized things are trying to get me to go in a direction. And if I follow those things more often than not, I end up like half-heartedly satisfied.
Right.
I'll find some satisfaction. I'll find something to be happy about in that situation. Right. But when, like with this whole like rooming situation, when there was the pressure to like, oh, I have to stay with my friend because it's how we've always done it, or it's, um, you know, we already made the plan, so we can't shift it now. When it was like that pressurized thing, who knows what would have happened? It's not going to happen now. But like now that there's this new thing that's like whole body, like my whole body's behind it, or like it's
Mm-hmm.
there's no like discomfort in my body when I'm thinking
Yes.
about it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's like
Yes, you get it.
yes, exactly. Like there's no. I mean, there might still be a little bit of pressure from like conditioning or whatever because that just happens. But I know now that like my body's so excited about this weekend now, like to know that there's a space. I also found like this Airbnb is like everything. Like I want my whole room to look like this. But um yeah, I get it when it's like when there's no part or when there's no discomfort in the body, then it kind
Mhm.
of that's an indicator in and of itself. That's like,
It's
okay,
kind of like a
cool.
green light. Your body, it's like a green
Yeah.
light for me. But when I feel that stop about decisions, that's my telltale sign. Hey, you get to chill. You get to ride that emotional wave
Yeah.
because when I do make decisions on the spot, I'm very emotional. And one of the things that I've had to learn over the years is it's not a bad thing. It's just like I liken, and I use all females in this. I liken females and our emotions to like being superheroes because in all the Marvel comics, every female, her superpower could mess the whole world up if she doesn't get it under control. Jean Grey could obliterate everybody. Vanya in the Umbrella Academy brought about the
Right.
apocalypse. So when I
Right.
think about my strong emotions and all these defined sinners, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. We know this now. We understand what's going on. There's lots of little fires going on all the time. So because we know that, let's sit for a moment so we can process what everybody's trying to say. And then like it's like when things die for mine, it says like when you flatline out. And that's usually like, again, when everything's chill in the body and I feel good about it, then it's a green light. But if I'm feeling like, oh snap, I have cramps, or oh snap, I have a like I pay attention to what my body is trying to tell me. And it's really been a game changer.
So feels good, one signal, doesn't feel so good, not another. So, I mean, you know what? When we were 4 and 5, we made decisions pretty good. We really did. Of course, they didn't have much consequence because we were just kids.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't really bring that into the future to now, except to recognize that the chemistry is the awareness, not the mind. Mind comes second, a skip of a record later, an eighth of a second later, mind starts thinking, but that's not the chemistry that informed the mind to start thinking about something. It's all chemistry. Nice. Do you feel complete enough?
I feel complete.
Awesome. Onward, and over to the reflector.
Well, another journey here about share a moment when your definition supported you. And I do have definition. It's borrowed, but I do have definition. Even if I have no definition in my chart, the definition is definitely supporting me through my decision-making process through the lunar cycle, or supporting us, I should say. And so leaning into that has been really significant for me because it's like I can feel into the ways of every center and the definition of how my gates marry up to be able to feel and sample into that experience. So if I didn't have that, or if I'm forcing myself to do things, or I'm attaching to the pressure of the root, or I'm attaching to the pressure of having identity all the time, then I'm not saying it does, it still does, but it has in the past caused a lot of tension and stuckness in the body because I've tried to attach to definition. So I feel for me it's about uncoupling from definition, knowing that I need the cycles, again, weaving back into what we were saying there before, the cycles of how that definition plays out through my unique design and honoring all of that as it sort of like navigates through. So I feel like I'm, again, all of you all, but also honoring it through my own non-attachment ways. So it's quite fascinating being in this space as well of going, I've got my opinions on it, but hearing you all talk, it's like, yes, that, and yes, that, and yes, that. But it's samesies, but different. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of similarity, but nothing's the same,
Right.
which would make sense why you sample and step back and then ultimately reflect back for us. As a reflector, do you ever notice that you don't notice that your reflection, that whatever's coming out of your aura is actually affecting the other? You know, that they wouldn't even see it. So that would be part of your decision making process, because you're suddenly affecting them, reflecting back a thing, and it might impact them deeply, and you might just whistle Dixie and skip right past it, not having noticed at times, maybe, or you know, a lot would go into that type of decision making, I'm guessing.
And I think it really also depends on how, as a reflector with our openness, how we're all set up. So there could be, one might have a completely open throat, for example, so they don't have that. One could have, you know, a lot of channels or sorry, a lot of gates in their throat. How does that kind of like split definition or you know, triple or those kind of like channels work out through a reflector's lunar cycle? And that's how we process as well. So there might be times where I'm trying to bridge a triple split that I might have. I don't personally, but one of the other reflectors might. So it might be a different experience for them through their lunar cycle as opposed to my lunar cycle, where I don't have that. Because if you put a reflector's lunar cycle into one day, are we I'm just throwing this out there. I haven't even really thought about it until this discussion, but are we a single definition? Are we a split definition? If you were to try and marry up all of the reflectors' gates to their harmonic, what's going to be our cycle? So knowing that, just sitting here with you all, knowing that and experiencing, it's just like, wow, that might be different for each of us. Might have a different exploration there.
Certain quantum ways you could even ask the question, what is the difference between a day and 28 or 29 days? You know, not necessarily a lot in big picture ways. That's a lot. So you, and then this, even the quadruple split, I imagine, decision making is a sampling process of not knowing what the hell until you've gone through a ton of touching, feeling, and finally coming to get clear. Yeah.
And then just making those mistakes too, so you can learn and
Yeah.
come up with a better way for other people.
Please make some blessed mistakes. We need them. They
So
make
many.
us so smart. Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next question, I guess. Are you all set, Annie?
Yes. So for the sake of time, because I promised our guests we'd be off by now, so my apologies. We're going to do one final question. So it's a little bit of a longer one, but hopefully I can make sense of it. So what I'd like you to contemplate is, do you feel more independently or dependent on others to feel complete or whole? So how has your interactions one-on-one as well as group settings affected by your definition?
Well, that's a good one. I feel whole. That I feel whole, but I feel displaced oftentimes in close relationships that maybe you're expecting a specific thing that you thought you were going to get, or that, oh, maybe over there it looks like a loving, nurturing relationship. Like, oh, I want that. I remember thinking that a lot. Like, I never had that, I would say, when I was younger. That wasn't like, I didn't have like a deep connection to like even like my parents. That was not the relationship. So I think I took that as like, oh, you know, I must not be worthy of love. I must not be enough. Or, you know, you just kind of like take it and then start doing stuff that, oh, well, if I do this, let's see if they love me more now. So I would say that definitely was something that, even though I felt complete, it still seemed odd because everybody else had these close relationships that I kind of wanted, but I didn't know how to do it. Obviously, I know now, knowing human design, because it's really not for me. It's okay. But it was like a thing. And then I feel displaced often in like group settings because I experiment a lot with this. It's hilarious. It always seems like the person that is like, they'll be like a person at an event that is really excited to talk to me. Like my magnetic aura will pull them in and they'll follow me around for where it's creepy that I'm like, oh my God, that lady just followed me to the bathroom. What the F? And then another person who maybe I wanted to talk to, who is like, doesn't even realize their energy in their face. They're just trying to get away from me. And so I'll almost like be funny about it. Like, hi. And just to, experiment. So it's just really been, I would say, a fun experiment in that way, where I think before I knew about human design, I learned to love myself anyway. My life's work has been, coaching and mentoring people to feel their best and go all in on their uniqueness. It's like what I do. So I figured out a lot of go arounds, but human design has been the best tool for really honoring it and embodying it in the body, because Siobhan, you said some of the most beautiful things, because I was like, that's so funny, because I think as a child, I disconnected from my body completely because I didn't want to feel pain. And it has been a hard road. Like I've done every healing modality known under the sun while we've been here on Earth. And, each of them work a little, but the layers and layers of pushing things out for years has really, human design has really allowed me to just be open to receiving things, and trusting that, I am enough. And it's an interesting dynamic when you hear it through the lens of so many things, because I hear so often, because I'm a 6-2 heart-centered manifestor, like it's like 0.2% of the population. It's like, very rare that people are like, oh, it's so cool. They're like mesmerized if they know about human design. However, if they didn't meet me knowing it, I love the experiment with the energy, because I have always felt like I was a 7-foot tall, really powerful man, because my dad used to tell me when I was a little kid, there's a reason God put you in that tiny 5'1" package, because you are scary. Like, so that's my energy when I walk through, and I'd be like, what, little me? Like, why is everyone staring at me? I'm trying to be quiet. And it's funny because my husband's like, there's nothing about you that's quiet. Like, you just know it. And so embracing that, I don't have to hide that. Like, okay, so like be bold, go big, or, it's fine. It's just like been really amazing to have a language that allows us to all be so different and truly honor it, because that's where the beauty is in all of the world. Like, I love hearing people's intricacies of their story and what makes them unique. And human design is such a beautiful way to do that, while still sharing some of the pain that that we've all been through, because we thought something was wrong with us. Turns out, nope, you're actually perfectly designed as you are. And that's all you need to remember.
You're perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the thing. You're perfect.
Perfectly imperfect. That's like it's like you are perfectly imperfect as you are. And I love it.
Well, I have noticed my split has caused me very much. It's been a big part of this process inside of me that says, I don't mind my dependency upon the other. I have a dependency upon the others and their feelings about a thing and sort of what they're feeling. I want their support. And I love that about me, because I know it helps pull people together. And that's always going to be a beautiful thing. Where the line gets drawn is when whatever it is that I think I might want out of a person as it relates to just support and or dependence or independence. So my independence comes in as soon as the situation is asking me to question my own love of me, because I love you, but I promise you I love me more, and I love me that way, and I think I'm amazing. So when that stuff starts to get questioned, in the past I would try to explain myself, or I would try to explain open ego. I'd also try and prove something, or I'd start to feel like stupid or bad because I didn't know if I was worth.
With the way this question was worded, I feel that where this has hurt me as being a single definition manifestor, where this has hurt me is that I don't know how to ask for help, but I want help. And so for years I would be like, oh, why is this person like no one would help me? And I get it now, right? I have to inform, I have to let people know what I'm thinking. Like, this is even if I'm just telling them what's going on, that has been a major game changer. But before understanding that, the leadership mistakes I made, just being angry when all I had to do was open up my mouth. So that was the thing. I think because I can do it, because I can, like, I'm designed to be able to do it, but I don't want to. I don't want to do stuff that's not fun. That has been the biggest learning curve. Okay, Danny, back to you.
I didn't know. I thought we were dovetailing. I thought, yeah. So for me, I forgot what was the last thing you heard. Do you remember? Anybody? Well, just I can simplify it all, and just the recognition that I used to think it was a flaw to know that I relish and I feel really good with the dependence on the other that I enjoy, because I get so much. I'm always getting so much. My right mind gets drawn from my split gets bridged, even if they don't bridge my split. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? There's something going on between me and that other person or other people. And to just know that as I woke up to my nature, I drew the line that I naturally would draw anyways. It's just now I draw it much quicker and much more steadfastly. And before I'd have to really work up to it. You know what I mean? And that line is, if you ask me to not love me in any kind of way, then then now I'm not dependent upon you. That's for dang sure. If you ask me to not feel good about something, or you want me to feel bad about something, I don't know that. I don't want to do that because you said it. So then I draw the line. But the rest of the time, I'm totally dependent on certain things, and that causes me to reach out, and then I get new juice, and now I can explain something new. And it's this exciting experience of back and forth. It's like the little bird that goes down, picks up a drop of water, and then comes back to rest for a minute, and then back down. And so I don't mind that process. Before, I thought it was a weakness, and I was supposed to be single definition and not need any of that. Now it's just a way to spread more love. So I'm good. So I'm done. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, for me, it's also kind of just echoing what Tracey was saying about how human design has kind of allowed the things and kind of what Danny was saying too, about how things that felt not great or that needed to be fixed just aren't that way anymore, or they don't feel as detrimental to who I am. They're part of who I am. There's things that I get to express as the unique being that I am. And part of that for me was it being a triple split was like kind of going back to in the relationships feeling kind of, I guess, kind of stifled by the aura. If it was like asking me to do the same thing for so much time and I didn't have a chance to be something else for a little bit or do something different for a little bit, it was like I'm a bad partner, or I'm not being a good friend, or there's something wrong with me because they're doing everything that my mind can conceive as like a good partner or a good friend, and I have to do this. I have to like I don't feel that way, or like in this moment I'm feeling not that, right? And so now understanding that and giving myself the freedom to be like, okay, well, this group, I kind of, now that I'm like reflecting on it, I have an ebb and flow of groups and friends. There's like a central core that has been there but that central core has also shifted and changed, like as the cycles of the planets have changed, and as I've even been in different environments. But to not feel as though I'm like supposed to anchor onto these people and supposed to always be around these people, and to give myself the permission and be like, okay, well, for now, for this season, that's not a space that I have to be in, or these aren't the people that I have to be around. This isn't the auras that my triple split need to be connected by in this moment, and to be okay with that, and to be like, okay, now that those are out, like going into the background, which ones are coming into the foreground, and accepting the kind of shift and change of the guard in a sense. But yeah, that's all that feels like it's coming through me at the moment.
Awesome. Okay. I was taking notes because everything that you said, it was like lighting up little. I was like, yes, yes, yes. Okay. So I just kind of want to summarize, since this is our last question, summarize like what a human design has really done for me. As someone that has ADHD and knowing I was a quad split, I'm like, this makes sense. I was like, this makes sense why there's so many things going on at all times. But as Tracey mentioned, I didn't have that language. So I just thought, oh, I need to, take something to fix my mind. I don't feel like I need to fix my mind anymore. And because I'm kind of a hippie, I'm like, I'll drink my mushrooms. I'll have my nootropics. Like that's the way that I want to do it, because I don't want to stifle those voices. Like I don't want to stifle those voices. And I feel whole now. Because before it used to feel like I wasn't enough, right? Because I didn't understand what I was working with. So I was always searching for that from somebody else. I was always second guessing myself. That's part of the, not being tapped in and knowing what's going on. But now when I'm like in groups, to answer the question, how do I function in groups? Because I know that I wear many hats, whether it's human design hats, whether it's ADHD hats, whether it's in real life, I'm a single mom, I'm a business owner, I was a pastor once. Like I know that I can put on many different roles when I come to the scene. So when I'm in a group, I no longer have to feel like I have to prove myself. I can sit back and let everyone kind of naturally go into their spaces. And then I can see where I can fill in the gap or who may need some help or some guidance in something. But the thing, you said something about ebb and flows, Chris, with your different social groups. And for me, it made me think of how I am on social media, knowing that there's like 8 different versions of me. And people are like, how do you do so many platforms? I'm like, well, sometimes I feel more drawn to this one. Like when I want to speak from the heart, I'm going to go to this place. When I want to speak something spiritually sound, I know that people over here, that this audience isn't ready for that. So I'm going to go over here. And understanding as a projector that and waiting for my strategies, waiting for the invitation, knowing that I have to be invited in certain places really helps me understand where my energy gets to go and who's going to receive it best. And so that, to overstate it, has been a game changer in helping me not only not be dependent on others, feel independent on my own, but also making spaces safer for others when I'm functioning with them. So, yeah.
Nice. Is it that process? This quadruple split, coming in 4 different areas, open, sacral, so projector. What's your profile, by the way, Siobhan?
Remind me what a profile is again.
It's just your 2. I'm
She's
a
a
2-4.
1-3.
Oh,
It's
1-3,
on
1-3.
there.
Right. Okay. Deeply investigative. So knowing you're not ready to make a decision and having a certain amount of guaranteed insecurity about things just from the start, this makes for a long and winding road that anyone getting to know you has to take some time and start to say, that's great. See, that's the thing. The more we know our design, the more everyone is easier to talk about. That's great inside of everyone else. When like 2 days ago, before we knew, it's like, that sucks. And it's literally, has anyone find these humorous moments in all of this as we go through? I wonder, that's, so good. But anyways, moving on. I'm done. I didn't know if that was even a question, but just this whole, but I guess, Annie, what's your take on all of that dependence and independence? I imagine you have a unique story.
Oh, well, yeah. I think there's been multitude of moments of hyper independence, and then dependence, hyper dependence. So just traversing, 6 years in human design has allowed me to probably uncouple from dependence. So I guess sitting here today, if someone was to say to me, well, how do you, exactly this question, I would think I'm very independent. And the reason I say that is because I do need the other, but I don't. It's a very strange concept. Yes, I do need you all to bridge my gaps. Yes, I do need, definition, but I don't need you to take on any of that stuff. So it's a nuance here when it comes to definition, I suppose, for just through my lens. Can I say I'm also a 5-1, so calm your pitchforks. But it's very much this. I really getting into this experiment and understanding my reflector role and myself with all of these undefined and open centers. I don't need the other, but I do. But I don't need the other to complete me. I just need to feel and experience, but I don't take anything on. And I think that's what I've really got out of this conversation as well, of feeling into that, of going, it's very different through my lived experience as being a reflector, that I don't desire all these bridges. I don't necessarily need them. I want them, but I don't need them. So, there have been periods of time through that, definitely dependence where I haven't been able to make decisions. I don't know what's correct for me. And so trusting others. So trusting other definitions, trusting my husband, he's a sacral generator, even my daughters, they're splenic projectors, and just kind of like, soundboarding out and trusting that definition for me to feel like I can complete myself. But the longer I'm in this experience, the more it's very much that I don't need that. My inner authority and my time-waiting decision-making process and allowing myself to sample and not take on that definition is a way for me to feel that wholeness within myself. So I know with reflectors that they're also, it's always about what's your inner authority. We don't really have it, it's like we just have strategy. I wish they just would put, because we always get put none. But I sense that our inner authority is that coming back to that nuance and that way that we flow and dance through, the journey of that lunar cycle, the transit cycle. And it allows us to kind of like tap into all of that definition as it goes through to feel into that wholeness of us. So it takes longer, but the more we get used to it, the more it kind of shortens in time that we can kind of trust in that. So I think that's why I'd like to say I'm not really dependent any longer, because my dependency is on my own beingness opposed to everybody else's. Well, that's a bit woo-woo, but yeah, that came out. You never know what you're going to get.
It was really sensible, actually, because juxtaposed to all the rest of the, defined solar beings, that would make perfect sense. That make perfect sense. The wisp floating amongst the masses, right? This unicorn called a reflector. But I don't know, I feel pretty good, Moana.
I was going to say, that was absolutely just such a treat for an audience member. I hope you, being part of such a magical group, felt just as rewarding as it did for the audience, just taking it in and just getting so much out of listening to all your varied experiences and your ahas and your nuggets. Like, it was just sheer brilliance. So I'm so glad how this group came together, because I think it was just like the perfect group. I made a funny realization between all of you. You cover all the lines. So I'm like, that's a nice rounding. There's not a single line that was left behind with you five. So that's quite magical.
Nice.
It feels magical.
Right.
Good vibes the whole time.
So I'm very, very glad again that everyone came on. So I'm going to give everybody like the floor one by one to let us know where they can find you, what you have going on. So we're going to go back to the order we've had. So I'm going to pop everyone off and bring you up one by one. So let's get the party going. So Tracey, let everyone know where they can find you and what you're up to.
What am I up to? I feel like I'm everywhere. But I have a podcast called Beyond Common Business Secrets. And that usually, I think we have episodes every single Tuesday. So you can hook up with us there or find me on Instagram or Facebook. My website, everything is just TraceyWattsErino.com. So you can find me everywhere. And I have a lot of programs, books. I have 5 different international best-selling books. So I am always teaching and creating new things. And I'm available to help you on this journey because we're all just trying to find how we can just be our best self. And that's what I love to help people do. So thanks for having me.
Amazing. Tracey, it was an absolute honor to have you on. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
So exciting. So now I'm going to bring up our resident guru. Come on up.
Reader.
I was gonna say, let everyone
Matrix
know
reader.
where they can find you. They should know the answers to this, but you can tell them anyway.
No, good. So you can call my cell phone directly at, I'm joking, I'm not supposed to say that online, but it is on it's on my Instagram handle. You give me a call and a text. It's really best. I'm on Instagram at Danny Guru HD. That's a good place to get me. I also have my email address. I wish I checked my email religiously, but it's DannyG@DannyGuru.com. And at this point in time, I still have a glitch on my website, DannyGuru.com, with my scheduler. And so sometimes the schedule thing isn't quite working. I hope to have that fixed before too long. Best to just text me right now. I specialize in reading for people. This is my thing. Give me to the people. I generate the responses. It's so good. Couples, I do it all. Families, the family dynamics, business, penta. It doesn't matter what it is anymore. Just call it in and we get this full reading down. And I also offer these 3 session packages that are really good for folks that are in human design and sort of want to know more. It might not even be about themselves, or just looking for the knowledge. And I will flesh that out for you on an individual basis. We'll come to know what is it you think you might be deficient on in knowledge, because maybe you want to read more for people or whatever it is. So I take like an AP class and I put it into 3 sessions for peeps. So come find me, check it out, get this thing rolling, and we're gonna marshal this knowledge out into the world. Yay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danny. That is going to be the running joke on the channel, isn't it?
I was going to say it, Mon. I was this close. You should know that. We hung on by a thread and I almost did it anyway.
Keeping me on my toes always. All right. So we're going to swap you out with our newest team member, Chris. Let everybody know where they can find you, what you have going on.
I got it. We're good. So hello, I am on Instagram at Chris Toribio. You will see me on here a lot more often on these streams. I am responsible for a lot of the graphics, not the background, but the actual stream graphics. And I love working with experiences and kind of helping them kind of evolve or grow. What that looks like specifically, you can take a look on my website. There's a little milkshake page on my Instagram. And yeah, we can chat from there. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I was going to say, Chris, you could have said so much more, but it's okay.
I know. I was
going to say, we'll get you to practice your plug a little more. For first time, not bad. We'll
honestly,
get there.
It's the open throat thing. It's just whatever needed to come out in that moment.
I know. We'll get there. It'll be fabulous. We'll get you like automated with your plug. But with that, we're going to now bring out our resident unicorn of the show. Here we go. Team swap. Siobhan, oh my God, I hope we didn't scare you off on the show.
Not at all. Not at all. No, this has been fun. I name drop human design and being a projector a lot, and my audience has no idea what I'm talking about. So it was cool to be here.
Yeah, so let everyone know what you're up to and where they can find you.
All right. So I am on Instagram at Siobhan Bonds. And it's my first name, Siobhan and BONS. That is where I'm at across all platforms, Lemonade, TikTok, and Instagram. Siobhan Speaks Social Podcast. You can find that on YouTube, and we're working to get that bad boy back up on Spotify. What else do I have going on? On that podcast, I'm mostly talking about race, religion, and politics as someone that is an ordained minister and no longer practicing. And as you know, a projector, someone that sees things through a whole bunch of different lenses. So yeah, that's what we're up to. And that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was an absolute delight to have you on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Excellent. And last but definitely not least, our wonderful Aussie. Tell us what you have going on and where we can find you.
Hello, thank you so much. This has been such a gift to me, such a surprise and a delight. So, I am a registered counsellor, grief worker. I work with pregnant and postpartum mums here in my hometown here in Australia. But I also do a lot of virtual and online sessions. I weave that through the lens of human design these days. So, I find that when people are really struggling to navigate their design, then I'm one of those safe spaces that they can come to. On top of that, I have the Reflector Reflections podcast and my Instagram channel on that. So I specialize in supporting and mentoring human design reflectors. I am 6 years in. I'm not a guru. However, I've learned through practical ways, which my fifth line can have, that there's a different way of doing this, and a lot of the way that reflectors are being taught isn't correct. So if people are looking and they're looking to learn how to actually, like really lean into their reflector experience, then you can come and contact me or work with me, or just, hang out on my podcast. And if you're a reflector, then I would love to indoctrinate you into my little posse. So again, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that.
Excellent. Thank you again so much for joining us, Annie. It was an absolute delight. So, with that, friends, we are going to close out another episode. Thank you for liking and subscribing and telling all your friends about the channel. We are growing leaps and bounds, and that's thanks to you tuning in and telling all your friends to come watch. So, please do keep doing that. We love feeling your love. And with that, friends, hope you enjoyed, and I bid you adieu.